When I first heard the phrase, listen with the intent to understand, not with the intent to respond, I found it to be powerful. But for whatever reason, I wasn't able to follow suit. Maybe because I was too full of myself, maybe because I wanted to make sure that when I go to a meeting, I'm not overpowered by other voices who are trying to speak over each other. So it stuck in my head, but I really didn't act on it until I attended a communications workshop by Terry Galt, and he mentioned something that actually spurred me into action. And he said something about this affording an unfair advantage. And for a minute, it struck in my head, saying, hey, what's an unfair advantage? Why would adopting this phrase lead to an unfair advantage? Long story short, fast forward to today, I can tell you what those three unfair advantages are because I use them every single day. So, unfair advantage number one is people dynamics, or PD. What does that mean? It means when you go to a room, if you're not compelled to ever have to say anything, you're not obligated, you don't feel any kind of pressure at all, you can focus your time on the speaker, on the audience, who's paying attention, how well is the speaker researched on the topic that she is talking about, is she empathetic with the audience, is she allowing them to chime in with their comments, is she maintaining her composure, everything. And then looking at whether she's making eye contact, who are the power brokers in the room, who is continuously distracted but needs to raise his head up every now and then to make a statement, and looking around the room to see if everybody nods their head. All of these are really powerful interpersonal dynamics that you would otherwise miss if you're so caught up with the need to speak up. But if you don't have that pressure, you will really understand the people dynamics in that room and by extension in the organization. That's number one. Number two is personal growth, which is really leading from number one. If you're actually able to see who is the most powerful speaker in the room, who is the one that's able to hold an audience, who are the active listeners who by their very act of listening have sent a powerful message, so when they get their chance to speak up, others listen. So it sends a very powerful signal to your own brain to see what's the best practices of speaking and listening that you can pick up. That's PG, personal growth. The third one, which I hinted briefly, is what I call a private hearing, which really boils down to, imagine you're in a meeting of 10 people and 60 minutes, and 45 minutes have gone by and you have not spoken up. You've maintained a steely silence, but engaged in active listening. So you're looking at the speaker, you're looking at the audience, you're taking notes, you're thinking, but you have not spoken up. And imagine at the 50th minute, you raise your hand and say, I have something to say. I guarantee everybody will shut up. Why so? Number one, because you already have credibility in that organization if you already have a track record. So they want you to speak, and the tension has been built up to such an extent that when you raise your hand, they feel relieved. But even, let's say you're new to the organization, you're new to that particular group, the very fact that you have contributed by listening, by taking notes, by watching, you've already been accorded a privileged status. So when you raise your hand to say, I have something to say, they will listen. That's what I mean by a private hearing. So again, feel free to try this out. It has actually worked for me wonders, and it is hard. Every now and then I do slip up and I end up saying things way before I should. But I've become much better at it, and I think the combinations of just using that unfair advantage so that you can look at the people dynamics, extend your personal growth, and wait for your private hearing are all really powerful concepts that I hope you can imbibe as well.